Good evening, family. Good evening, family. This is Shirley Hussar, and you are watching Shirley's World. So today I wanted to come on live because I know there's a lot of conversation regarding coronavirus, the virus, how it's affecting our communities. This video is going to be done based on a local and state perspective. I know there's a lot of national news. There's a lot of speculation of what could happen, what could possibly happen. And I want to speak to you with a clear agenda. I'm going to speak to you with facts and numbers and websites that you can go to regarding the state of California. I am calling on the leaders of California to step up to the plate regarding this. We should not just rely on our state leaders and our legislators. I believe that local activists nationally should know what is going on from a state perspective, from a local perspective, from a community perspective. My name is Shirley Hussar, and I am the CEO of Urban Game Changers. Urban Game Changers is an organization where we go into urban communities and we hold elected officials accountable as well as ourselves. I am broadcasting live right now because I want to be able to talk about the issues that we are dealing with from a local level. Hey, shout out to Max on Facebook and Betty and Mark. So I am broadcasting on two platforms. One is YouTube and the other one's on Facebook. If you go to the YouTube platform, you'll be able to see some of the websites when I discuss issues. If you follow me just on my personal page, I'm not going to be able to show you, but at least we can still have these conversations. The interesting part about Facebook, streaming on Facebook, is that I do get a lot of sites where it'll shut off and I can't just keep stopping, but I want to at least continue on with my message. So if you're following me on Facebook and you want to make sure that it doesn't keep cutting off, I would encourage you to go to YouTube or just to continue to support me on Facebook. So hold on, my Facebook is acting kind of strange. I'm gonna let that get together. Hey, Dimitri, let me go ahead and put in the stream. Let's see, copy. I'm going to copy and I'm going to put in the stream. If you're following me on Facebook, on my Facebook fan page, you will get what you'll see on YouTube. So that'll help you too. And then I'm going to put StreamYard. I know Dimitri is like my co-pilot. He's going to come on board and we are going to be discussing local issues. Shout out to all the local leaders in California, but it is important that we know what happens on a local level versus statewide level. Okay, so I want to kind of support some clarity on that. So let's begin. So today, Gavin Newsom addressed the state of California, and he provided an update, the local state of California. He provided an update about what is going on. I see you in Flagship, so I'm going to bring you in about 10 more minutes, and let me just kind of read go over the highlights of Gavin Newsom. Basically, Gavin Newsom decided to tell us the things that are needed in California. I want to tell you this. If you have any issues on the stream on the bottom, as you can see, you should go to cdc.gov regarding the coronavirus. If you are in California and want to know what's going on in the state level locally, you need to go to caloes.california.gov. Again, go regarding the coronavirus in the state of California, go CAL, which is Cal, OES.cal.ca.gov. And it's streaming at the bottom, and I will put it in the comment section I have already down below if you want to know what's going on within the state of California. The governor has made it very clear that there is a crisis and there will be some restrictions put upon the state. I'm asking that local leaders within California step up to the plate, because if you step up to the plate, you will be able to see a difference of what is going on. My Facebook went off, so I'm just going to go ahead and stream from you guys here on YouTube, because Facebook, it will start doing some special things. I tried to do both. It didn't work out. So hopefully my Facebook audience will come over to the YouTube audience. I want to talk about some of the things that he said. So let me just share this video real quick. And since StreamYard will allow me to do that, I'm going to go ahead and do that with you so that you can hear what the governor of California had to say about the coronavirus.
I started getting some emails and texts from people in different locations. This morning, pretty early, I started getting some emails and texts from people.
Hold on one step. That has to do. There was one I wanted to show you regarding California. Let me continue to look for this while I come back to you. I apologize. That was not the stream I wanted to show you. But let me show you at least the numbers. Let's go to the numbers that are currently happening in California and nationwide. California has the number. We are number one as far as the most infected people. So here you can see here the cases in California nationally in the United States are 1629. And that's as of the close of, let me give you some dates and time because you might watch this at a different time. An update as of March the 13th, 2020. To get current updates, you need to go to coc.gov for current updates. Don't focus on other local media channels and stations and stuff. Don't focus on that. Focus on knowing real news. I'm going to give you real sites. You know, I like to get real receipts. I don't like to give you made up news and hypothetics. If it's a hypothetical or concept, I will share that, which will be my own personal opinion. But more factual information, I like to provide that. I am always trying to provide that. Like Flagship says, we need to go ahead and provide you the receipts. And the more receipts you have, the more you know, the more you grow. Okay, deaths. The total deaths is 41. I've heard 60. I can't go by that. So I'm going to now go by whatever I can, whatever is printed and whatever is published on the CDC Gov website. And of course, the cases that we are aware of outside the District of California, outside of the District of Columbia, excuse me. Travel restrictions have been put in place, as well as travel restrictions within the state of California that have been put in place. So let me go ahead and let me read to you some of the highlights that I got from Gavin Newsom, and watching the governor was really interesting because, oh, here's the video. Let me show you the web video real quick so that you guys can see the video of what the governor is talking about, because I think that's important too. I'm going to also give you the links below regarding that. But this is the governor talking about
ICU beds in our system, but that's not just for adults. Let
me start from the beginning.
But those labs, as I noted a few days ago, have been supplemented by hospitals from Stanford to a number of UCs, City of Hope, as well as our private lab, Quest, in San Juan Capistrano. I'll remind you that Quest currently is operating just one lab in the state of California and conducting roughly 1,200 tests on a daily basis. That will substantially ramp up in the next week or so with the 2 additional labs that will come online. We'll get those tests just from that commercial lab up to 5,000, as much as 5,500 a day. But the total number north of 8,000, and we are increasing our capacity on an hourly basis, not just a daily basis. Accordingly, we have advanced a partnership that was initiated well over a week ago with Verily, the health and life science subsidiary of Alphabet. We advanced that partnership with the idea of bringing.
So I'm going to fast forward his message because God knows he talks slow. When I watch this video, it's a 2-hour video, which I'm not going to show you. But what I end up doing is I just went ahead and push fast forward on the bottom so that I can kind of get a little understanding of where he's coming from, his perspective, but I'm gonna cut to the chase. Gavin Newsom stated the following: seniors are priority as well as homeless people in the state of California. So if you are a senior and you're 65 years or older, you are asked to stay isolated at home. So write this down. If you guys have seniors who are at home, they are asked to stay home that are 65 years or older. They're asked to stay isolated. Our concern, of course, right automatically is saying, okay, you want these old people to stay home if they don't have anybody to care for them as far as children or nieces or nephew. What do? Well, apparently they are organizations that Gavin Newsom is working together regarding meals. He's saying that there's going to be meals allotted for these people, and they're working on that as we speak. There are a task force. Gavin Newsom also stated there are 13 task force. I don't know who these 13 task force are, TASK force are, but when I do, I will let you know. If you are conservative, I know that we don't really support Gavin Newsom. We know that this state is cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. This is a liberal state. It is a state that believes in this inclusive global awareness, but they are put on hold because we are what? USA first. We are American first, and that is our primary concern. So saying that it is positioned him, which in some slightly disposition him to be more responsible for what the state should have been addressing, which is the elderly and the homeless first, and not immigrants and illegal immigrants. It is forcing the state of California to pivot more into a self-responsibility in that, and they're doing that based on the coronavirus. Number two, nightclubs, bars, wineries, breweries are to be closed and to follow the guidelines that'll be issued through the state. Like I said, you can go to the website for that, which I put down strolling on the bottom, which is the CALOES.california.gov. Please go there and they'll probably give you more breakdowns. This is my input and my insight. I am Shirley Hussar, the CEO of Urban Game Changers. If you guys are liking this video, please get the thumbs up. I know everybody's chiming in. I'm providing information regarding the state of California directly and in conjunction to what the President of the United States is saying. These guidelines are changing daily. I believe personally we are on the verge of a national shutdown, which I've never seen in my lifetime, but a national shutdown means that the leaders in local communities need to be the face and the calmness for the community. You should be more informed, you should be more conscious, and you should be communicating. It is not about party, it's not about ethnic background, it is about understanding that you are in charge and you are the ones that need to be more in alignment with knowledge. And that means that you're going to communicate with people you may not obviously agree with on president or ideologies, but at least we can do better. If we know better, we can do better and we can help our people better. Number two, like I said, with the clubs, the bars, the wineries, they're shutting those down. Number three, all restaurants are still open in California. They are restricting social, I'm tongue-tied today, social distancing. So apparently there's like 6 feet or a certain feet requirement for restaurants. So if you do have a restaurant or a bar, again, I recommend you go to the website, but there is new chair alignments and distancing. You know, they love to have us live like pack rats. Now, this is contradicting to Gavin Newsom and California legislators because they are have the ideology more like China, more of an authoritarianism operation where they want to give you dictatorship and have us all live and stack like rats on top of each other with this green innovation. Now, because of all this green innovation living, we have to make an adjustment in California and start spreading ourselves away from each other and greeting each other in a different manner because of this disease. Under the disease control of this virus, there is a distance that you should have in communing with people. So they're saying, number three that I wrote down, these are my notes that I took from Gavin Newsom today. For those who just chimed in, I'm reading the notes of Gavin Newsom and what he stated to the state. He made an address to the state of California. And our special guest flagship is going to be coming on board and he's going to give his insight, but I want to share my notes with you. Again, social distancing is something that they truly emphasize. Number 4, regulating the homeless people, securing hotels and motels. Gavin Newsom allegedly is claiming there are 180,000 homeless people. I've done these videos for the last 3 to 4 years. I am an activist, unlike other people who like to carry titles in the Republican Party and Democrat Party, who do not put their face, their name, or their family on the platform so people can see. I am real. I don't have some made-up name like Diamond and Silk, who I don't know their name. No tea, no shade to any of these people. But I mean, in a state of crisis, we need leaders and adults to step up to the table. So if you're an adult and you're a leader, and you're not just some activist and social blogger, I need people who really are passionate about the security, the safety, the understanding, and the clarity of what is going on. And I think that what you'll find from me and those associated with me, that we take life and living serious, and we want you to have a pure, clear, operational understanding, especially the Black community. And I say that because Gavin Newsom is allegedly stating that 180,000 people are homeless. I disagree. I think that number is way more than that. I also would say that there's probably 80 to 90% of those people who are African-American descendants of slaves, or just African-American or of the dark diaspora. And I say that because what I have found that this legislator under Gavin Newsom in the state of California is that they do not prioritize Americans first. What they prioritize is immigrants and illegal immigrants. And in this speech today, he talked about patriotism, and that they will be enforcing patriotism, which means a lot of these people will have to go back to their country. There is a responsibility that each countryman has to their country. That is why President Trump, and let's get some clarity, because people are saying President Trump is not taking this serious. The White House has reached out to me, and the White House has reached out to leaders who are in the community, not just people on the campaign trail. I've told you there's 4 aspects of understanding how the Republican Party and Trump administration operates. You have the White House, you have the Republican Party, you have the Victory Campaign Tour, okay, and you have the local California Republican Party, or whatever your state local party is. If you are a Republican and you are a millennial and you're watching this video, you are not being mentored. I am trying to step up to the plate and let you know that the information I'm providing you is a mentor understanding of what a Black conservative does and what we do. There has been controversy over Black conservatism under the White House regime, of them just pushing these young Black Republicans or conservatives. I think that's wonderful. But in times like these, we cannot lean to those young people because they don't know history and they have not lived life long enough. Brian, if you're able to come back in, I see you trying to chime in. Please do. We're going to bring all the people who like to chime in. I did put a link in the section of those who want to come in. I'm going to start talking in our groups, and I'll put it in there one more time. But right now, I'm just sharing some of the notes that Gavin Newsom had said. AJ, if you're able to chime in, I love you too. I love for you to give your opinion. But again, if you want to know what we should be doing as Black conservatives, we should be focusing on the elderly Blacks and the homeless Blacks. And this is what should have been priority in California, which was not. I don't agree with Gavin Newsom and the numbers of 180,000 homeless people. I think that number could be tripled or quadrupled. I think there's there's a lot of people. Everybody's got different numbers, but obviously the number's not going down. It's definitely going up. People are going to be basically who are in encampments, you are going to be broken up. So if you're watching me and you're homeless right now and you're saying, what's going to happen to us? I'm telling my homeless brothers and sisters who are out there watching me live that the encampments will be broken up, and that the federal government as well as the state are working timeless and overtime to find a way to house you, which they should have been doing anyway. But thank God that there's some action that we're seeing coming from this administration from a state level of California that apparently Gavin Newsom announced today. Now, my concern is the following, is that if you're going to house these people who are homeless, we want to make sure that he stays true to his word, and that the patriotism of allowing those who are not Americans to be allocated back to their own homeland, and those who are Americans, that American come first. Because this is what this administration has been trying to emphasize since 2016. Many of you guys were anti-Trump and you were anti-immigration when we told you numerous of times, illegal immigration and immigration needs to have a better control factor. It needs to be watched upon. It needs to be restructured. The laws and the rules and the regulation that President Trump tweeted out May 12, I think 2017, when he says that we have the bad immigration laws in this country. Now, because of this global epidemic that has caused pandemonium within our country, the problem that we're having, please get the thumbs up and share this video. If you're watching this video, please get the thumbs up and share it back on Facebook, because Facebook is down and I'm streaming it directly either from my Facebook fan page and from YouTube that are watching me now. The pandemonium, as I get my words tongue-tied, that we're dealing with right now is because of the irresponsibility of the Republicans and the Democrats not working together on trying to get a grip and a hold of all this international global interaction within America and within the world. And if we could do better, if you want better, you do better, but you're not doing better. And now because of this epidemic, we are forced to be a democracy of how America operates. And I'm going to break that down in a second. Number 5, If you are in the LA Unified School Districts, they are stating the following: 80 to 85 of the school, 80 to 85 schools are shut down in California. So check your local schools, except for the rural areas like Kern County, which has to do with Tehachapi and the Bakersfield area. Check with them. This might have changed. This is from this earlier today. It's always changing, but apparently 24 out of the 25 districts have been asked to shut down. Why haven't they all been shut down? It's because the size and the regulation of these communities are different. Kern County is a much smaller district than LA Unified. So they are able to have more of a grip of how many children can commune close together. Some of the private schools may not be shut down. But as a parent, as I am, my kids are grown now, but if I were a parent, I'd just keep my kids at home. I'm not doing that. Apparently there's going to be funds, listen to me, there's going to be funds to assist those who are restricted to stay home. They have not given that on the link of the website yet, but as those funds come available or opportunity to apply for those funds, I will do videos so that you have clarification locally as well as nationally. President Trump also allocated that there will be funds for SBA for small businesses, and I knew this was coming. So make sure that you continue to follow my videos, and I will provide you that information as well. I'm speaking directly to the African American community and the Black churches. I'm going to say a shout out to my home church, which is Crenshaw Christian Center. Pastor Blake Church, I'm going to say a shout out to, and also Pastor Godot out in Sacramento. There's many churches out there. I'm asking for the Black church leaders to come together and start talking about how can you make sure that the seniors and the elderly are being fed in your community. If you want to reach out to me, please do. I do have a call, and I do have a conference call in conjunction with the White House. I am working directly with them. They have reached out to me, and so I've decided to take the reign of speaking to my platform and my urban community. I would also ask that you share this video for those who are watching within the church, because we need certain foods and provisions to be provided for our elderly. And because we already know who our elderly are, we have their names, we have their addresses. I think it would be great if we can start some type of cooking regime, or if we can maybe get food to the churches that can handle the capacity and the restaurant style like Crenshaw Christian Center. I know they can do it, or possibly if they would be willing. I'm just asking, this is an ask, that they correlate with the federal government and the state in cooking meals, and that those who want to volunteer and step up who are younger, because apparently the coronavirus, as we already know, is affecting more of the elderly, according to President Trump as well as Gavin Newsom, because that's why they particularly have asked for the elderly 65 years or older to stay at home, to stay at their living facilities. If you have an elderly person who is living in a hospice or a situation where they're in an elderly home, they are more prone to likely get coronavirus, possibly because of what happened in Washington State. This is my opinion. My mother has passed and my father's passed. If my mother was still in that living facility, which she was, I would pull her out. I would start talking to other family members who may have an extra bedroom, and I would put her in. I would have that discussion this Sunday and sit down with your family members, with those who are older. If you can put them in a safer, cleaner environment, more regulated by your family member environment, it is in your family and your best interest to do that. Again, back to the churches with the food and with people who they may need to drive and drop off these foods. There's ways that we could put meals together, maybe put bags of them and announce and call them on the phone. Hey, your food is on the porch, walk away and let the people grab the food and go from there. I believe that, again, if you are a leader within your communities, there is a responsibility other than trying to seek titles and position within a regime of politics. I've met many people who love to carry their names and say they're associated with people, but I noticed that you're not tweeting, you're not posting regarding a result and finding out solutions and coming up with ideas. if you call yourself a leader, you should be implementing ideas. You should be speaking from one of authority, and you should have connections for that. And that's why I say the leaders who are conservative Black Republicans who have been in this fight longer than these new millennials need to step aside and let those of us who know each other and know how to bring things together be open enough to be mentored and humble enough that this administration would not dish or disrespect other leaders who have been around, many people who are out there who are making a difference. Let me continue on. Number 6, going back to number 6 again. Gavin Newsom spoke from saying that we are not an isolated state. We are a national state. And I had to understand that. And that means that we are a state that is comprised, a nationalist state is one that's comprised of different cultures and different people. It's not just of one culture. But understand, Gavin Newsom, that we are America first. And I know you want to call us Angelinos. And I didn't grow up calling myself an Angelino. I was from Los Angeles, and I'm a Californian. And I made it very clear the importance of what we are as Americans. And we have leadership in this country and in this state right now that has been trying to twist our priorities. And now we're being forced, each countryman and each country is being forced to look at their platform and their people first. And thank God for President Trump leading the fight, being responsible, who does not have coronavirus, by the way. Many people say, does the president have coronavirus? No, the president was tested. And yesterday they announced that he does not have coronavirus. They did ask Gavin Newsom, would he be tested? He says, I'm fine, I'm healthy. I'm not of that age that I need to be tested. Well, there are people who are younger who have gotten coronavirus, Gavin Newsom, and you are a leader within the state of California. I would think that Gavin Newsom would step up to the table and have himself tested, as well as his Aunt Nancy Pelosi. His Aunt Nancy Pelosi should step up to the plate. But let me tell you a little note of what Nancy Pelosi did on a side note. As many of you know, there the coronavirus packet, which President Trump and Congress have been working diligently to put on the table regarding some financial resources to and help the community with regarding those who are going to deal with losses and those who are going to dealing with taking off work to take care of their sick and elderly, as well as the children, because many of these children are asked to stay home as well. What they did was they created the coronavirus packet. But I don't know if many of you know this or not, but Nancy Pelosi, or her crazy ass, she went ahead and she tried to find a loophole within the coronavirus under the Planned Parenthood and tried to implement a $1 billion reimbursement laboratory claim under this crisis right now. She is trying to still promote abortion and Planned Parenthood and trying to get money taken away from this crises that we are in, this pandemonium that we're in a liberal, constructive way that's not in our best agenda. And I think you need to be conscious of that. And I know there's a lot going on, but this is why voting for Democrats, voting for Nancy Pelosi, having people like Gavin Newsom in power is not good for California. Now, many of you guys have questioned President Trump. Let me address Trump issue. The issue that we may have or have with President Trump. President Trump has always been himself. He's the kind of man that's going to tell you like it is. Like, screw you, this is it. That's going to be that way. You cannot criticize this regime of presidency right now. You cannot criticize the White House because they are working around the clock to stay calm, to address the people and communicate to people on the ground. And I will also give President Trump high regards to the fact that when he speaks to the people, he is very strict, he is very straightforward, and he is going by the information provided to him. He is not speaking from himself. He is speaking from the information provided to him. And if you want to know more about that, I also put that on the link below, and you can go to the White House .gov when you want to learn more. You can go to cdc.gov to learn more about the coronavirus and from a presidential standpoint of where the president stands. He also has certain restrictions of travel. Now, there's a lot of chaos at LAX right now from people who are coming in. President Trump never said he was going to cut off people from coming back into this country if they are American citizens. He made that very clear. If you are a citizen, or if you are here legally, he will let you back in. But you know, in California, we have these undocumented licensing given to illegals, which says I am an undocumented resident of California. From my understanding, and I stand corrected if somebody helps me, you will not be asked to come back. You need to go back to where you came from. So if you know someone who is here illegally under an undocumented driver's license, they are asked to do patriotism acts right now. And that means that you need to go back to where you came from. Now, if you want to know more about that, you can go and watch President Trump's last address where he sat down and talked to the people. And you can also watch the recent one today with Gavin Newsom. At the end of the video, he didn't want to push that, but he knew he had to instill that in his conversation because it is more of a national and federal enforced issue, which we have been as patriots and citizens of California wanting for a very, very long time. So I'm going to bring in Flagship right now, and then I'm also going to start talking about some of the difference in how our countries are ran. But Flagship, thank you for coming on board. There's a lot of people who are watching right now. I want to thank Lucky and MC007
Hello.
and Carol who are watching, and AJ. What's your take on what I've just shared?
There was a lot, but what I will focus on is just his response to treating the homeless, and I think it's just it's too little, too late, because it's not just the coronavirus that these homeless diseases, diseases that homeless people have, it's other stuff as well that you mentioned in other broadcasts. And for him just to have these people go to different hotels and things of that nature, it's not going to be, he's not trying to solve the problem. He's not offering any medical care or anything like that. He's just transferring these diseases to actual businesses and establishments. So I think this is just way too little, way too late. And wait, hold on. Is that T West?
T West is on board.
Oh, I'm gonna stop talking then. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm gonna just go ahead and defer to T West. What do I look like trying to talk when he's here? I'm gonna be quiet. Go ahead, T West.
We
I'm
all
sorry.
love T West, but I want you to finish your thought. Go ahead and finish your thought, because me and T, we both can ramble forever. Go ahead and share.
Well, shout out to T West. I'm a huge fan. Watch your show every time it comes on. Lots of honor and respect to you and your family. But just to finish my statement, I just think that it's just too little, too late, and he's not really truly solving the problem. I think he's just trying to do this for political gain, because he does have ambitions to run for president, and it's not really truly solving the underlying issue of the homeless altogether. And that's my comment.
I appreciate that. T, thank you, West. Mr. West is in the house. Afro Synergy News. If you guys are not following Afro Synergy News, I think you're in the loss, because this is a wonderful person who I love and adore, who's out of Arkansas, my mother's home state, and he is going to give his perspective. I've been loving what you've been speaking regarding the coronavirus in the urban community. T, what's your thought on the matter?
Oh, well, I'm late getting here, Shirley. So, hey, how you doing, first of all?
I'm doing well. Tonight we've been discussing what Gavin Newsom has put out. I don't know if you heard what I said earlier, but basically he's emphasizing that the elderly people are asked to stay home between 65 and older, and that they are supposed to be working on provisions to remove the homeless people, which I've been asking for the last 4 years, to be removed from the streets. He's saying that they're going to be possibly even purchasing, I didn't mention that earlier, some hotels and motels for security for the community. 80 to 85% of our schools will be shut down in California as well. And basically isolation and distancing is what's happening here. What's happening with you in Arkansas?
Oh, well, it's relatively quiet here in Arkansas. I was in Texarkana the other day. I've heard about across the country about shelves and stores having no toilet paper, tissue, and paper, things like that. But I just went into a Walmart in Texarkana City overall, that population is probably around about 70,000 overall. So went into the biggest Walmart there. They have a few of them there. But I noticed that there wasn't any toilet paper there. I didn't need any because usually I have a lot of it anyway. Okay. I keep a lot of it anyway. I just buy it.
Toilet paper phase. Oh Lord, let's have a conversation on that one. But keep going.
So anyway, I was just checking on it in the store. I'm like, oh yeah, there's none of that. But everything else was stocked up. There was lots of meat. Everything was there in the store. But the toilet paper, gone. But I was talking also to one of my daughters this afternoon in Phoenix, and she had just got back home from, she was somewhere in California, I think, yeah, San Diego. She just got back, and they were out looking for toilet paper and water in Phoenix. Okay, all the water, she said, all the water on the shelves were gone. Okay, so I said, well, baby, I don't have that problem here in Arkansas. Okay.
Well, I think that we have to make it clear they're not going to cut your waters off, and they're not going to close stores. So let's make that clear. Also, toilet paper is not survival methods. If anything, if you want to look for survival food, you should be looking at dry food like beans, pasta, rice. These are things that you need to think about if you're going to think about survival. Water, alcohol, towels and napkins and cotton swabs, self-adhesive tapes in case you get cuts or something. You need to think more of a survival purchase. Toilet paper is great, but you can always use paper towels, if anything, if you got to go that bad. I just think people have to understand they're not shutting down the stores. I believe the reason why there's a pandemonium, though, T, within the stores, this is my perspective, within the stores is because we're moving in the state nationally. We're going into a country that is going into a national quarantine. So we see it in Italy, we see it in China, and we're moving towards more of where we're going to see the state start to quarantine. This is one reason why they're doing testing. The reason why they want to test is because they want to locate where the majority of this virus is going to be spiraling more out of control. So if we see that Alhambra, or if we see in, I'm just saying it's not, I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying Alhambra has a large Asian community. I'm going to just say that area just in case. Let's say they do testing and it has a large number, they will shut down that city in California, or they'll shut down cities in certain parts of the states because they have done these testings, which can cause a quarantine factor. What does quarantine mean? That means you can't go nowhere. So now pandemonium of how do I eat and how do I feed myself and how do I get my meals? Because we're not seeing that really clear in China or Italy. All we're seeing in China is authoritarianism, which is an action of where the government has the authority to do as it please, and you as an individual are not empowered to the liberties that America does. So what does that mean? That means that they can go and they can weld you in the house, weld you in your apartments, stop you from going out, walking down the street, stop you from driving in the streets. And we saw that in some of my previous videos where you heard the gentleman who's in Wuhan, China, who said you're not allowed to drive. You're not allowed to drive. And many people aren't even supposed to be walking and then keeping those social distances. So I think the pandemonium regarding the toilet paper is the bigger thing of us being confined to maybe being quarantined.
Yeah. You have, they're moving more and more towards that. You just had today the Fauci, the CDC, they came out and said that now they want to limit crowd sizes to no more than 50 people. So in the public, no more than 50 people. So it's moving more and more towards that. As many of you know, the National Guard, they have been activated also because it's a national emergency. So that has occurred. Now, Shirley, more to what you were saying about the governor there in California and the declaration about those above a certain age. I think, what was it, 70 and above?
65 and older are asked to be isolated in their homes. And then there's discussion of meals, water, and medical provisions that they are working together with their task force of 13 people right now in the state of California.
Okay. Well, it's going to take a lot of resources to administer over something like that. The state would have to have in their database people who are 65 years of age and older. They would have to have that. They would have to have in their database, and they have some of this because some of these people with chronic medical issues, they're on record. They have medical files on these people. They would have to have a monitoring system in place. They would, and that would be a huge effort in California to get people out to attend to these people, because if these people are under a quarantine in their homes, supposedly, I guess it's to protect them because this COVID-19 virus, it hits the older people in a much more virulent way. So they would have to have a mobilized force available to attend to these people. These people would need things from the stores. They would need food products. They would need other products. They would need all of that. So the question is how well is California, and with the assistance of the federal government, how well are they equipped and ready to actually carry out what the California governor has said? So these things are sort of easy for political leaders to say, but
to execute is another thing. I totally agree with you. I think one of the things being a native of California is that if we go back to start talking about the Black churches have a large database. The Black churches has a large database of people who they can connect with, that they need to be having conversations with, especially like Crenshaw Christian Center. That's a huge church. And a lot of our churches are ran by our elderly people. Absolutely ran by our elderly people. So T, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Let's go on and MC, I see you in the house. How you doing, MC? MC, you out there? I know you're quiet real quick while you get yourself together. Flagship, what's your take on what Flagship, get ready. I'm gonna ask you the next question. I'm gonna go to MC, but Flagship, I want your take on what T has to say, because you're a local person here. I want your intake on, like he said, it's easy for these politicians to say that they want to do something, but it's another thing for them not to be able to execute it. MC fell off. I'm sure he'll come back in. Flagship, what's your take real quick?
Well, just they're not going to be able to execute it, and I think that we all deep down inside know they won't be able to execute probably even a fourth of what they said. This is an election year, so everyone's turned into a peacock, and the bottom line here is they're going to just give the illusion of accomplishment. But the only one who I believe is really capable and have the weapons surrounding him to do things is the president of the United States. And I have no, and Shirley, you live here. You've been here through all the drama. I grew up here. So when has the government of California done anything correct? Never. Pretty much never. So I have no faith. I have no confidence in them at all.
I'm not a fan of Gavin Newsom. Let me just kind of lay the platform out. I'm not a fan, but I will say today was the best speech I've heard him in a long time, where he had to be responsible in addressing the issues that are in our face, the elderly and the poor people. He did not say, "Hey, we've got to help all these illegal immigrants." He knew that he had to enforce the Patriot Act. When he said that, he did it very quietly towards the end, which means illegal immigrants, y'all gonna have to go back home. If you have license that say, and you're out of the country right now, and you say, I want to go back to America, I live in America, and they said, no, you're an undocumented citizen in America, and you will not be able to fly or come back over here. I think that was very clear. But going back to what T. West stated, which is very
okay.
T. West said, if you've got these people making all these statements, the allocation of laws and items to implement, they have to work. How do they figure that out? They've got to work with the Black churches. They have to work with communities. They have to work with the organizations, the local organizations that are out there. Let's go to MC.
True. Okay.
What's your take, MC? What's your take on this? I think MC's mic off. MC, are you there? Oh, MC, we can see you, but we can't hear you.
But Shirley, can I say something really quickly before MC comes on?
Yeah.
Well, but the thing is that it's right now we're in crisis mode. The time to prepare for a crisis is before it actually happens. Remember, this is the same governor who blocked ICE from getting the illegal immigrants out of here almost a little bit less than a year ago. So just think about it. If he would have just stepped to the side and let the law, keyword the law, take place, then guess what? We probably wouldn't be in this situation. It probably wouldn't be as severe right now to implement whatever policy he wants to put in. And also regarding his speech, it's exactly what it is. It's always a speech. I'm tired of hearing speeches. The bottom line, he should have came out here and said, "This is what we're doing. This is the money we have appropriated. These are the people who are in charge." And it should have been an action speech, not some Obama-esque theoretical speech. And that's what I'm done. I've told you this before. I'm done with the speeches. I'm done.
And I would agree with you on that. But I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to give him the shadow of the doubt. I'm going to be watching very closely like a hawk at CALOES.cal.gov. It's a local site that's supposed to provide provisions and understanding, and also cal.gov to see what the state is going to really do. MC, are you there? I know you've been trying to get your sound together, dear. Still can't hear you. If you get your sound, just keep trying to talk and say something. I think that would be great. T West, let me ask you this. Each state has something different. I'm sure you've heard from the governor of Arkansas and how he wants to deal with this crisis. In conjunction from state to state, it varies. Should we be able to see the states maybe work together, or each state needs to look at this from another perspective?
Well, basically, each state needs to have its own program. They need to work it out because they know the logistics within their own state. Now, it should be each state, and then it also should be the federal government. Now, when Newsom, I noticed a few days ago when Governor Newsom there was questioned by a reporter, and the reporter was asking a question. I forgot what the question was, but she was asking a question. Under normal circumstances, this question that she was asking, the governor would have answered in such a way as to demonize Trump. But the governor of California did not do that. He answered in sort of a way, don't remember the exact words, but he answered that, he's working right along with Donald Trump with this, and that he agreed with what Trump said, and they're working, hand in hand with this. So that is an indication that the governor in California, for that moment right there, he put aside all of the political banter because he knows how serious this is. Because all up along that Pacific corridor, you have a very large Chinese and Asian population. And
say that again, because I don't think people get that. Y'all don't get, we have the largest corridor of Asians in the United States of America. And I've done that video. If you're not following me, I did that video 3 weeks ago where I showed you where Chinatown originated in California. Go ahead, T. West.
Yeah, so, and what they do is they travel back and forth to China on business, pleasure, etc. They do that. And that's probably the biggest single reason why the state of Washington has for several days has had at least around about 90% of those who have been diagnosed as infected with this COVID-19 virus. Okay.
Why have they not told us what race these people are, what ethnic background they are? Because they know, we already know what they are. It's like that white elephant in the room, the talk of, black people saying, I ain't gonna get it because black people don't get it. We know that the larger the percentage of people that are infected are not African Americans or Africans. Africa, a lot of part of Africa don't even have any infections. I mean, talk to me.
Well, and we know black people can get it, okay, but right now we have no knowledge of any blacks actually dying of this.
There you go.
No knowledge of any of them dying of it. And currently right now, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, they're not really making public the demographics of the people here in the United States who are being affected by this. They aren't doing that yet. Now, I'm sure they have it, but they're not making it public yet. Now, but what we do know is that it can affect some Black people. Now, you have the Utah Jazz player, the center. He plays center for the Utah Jazz. Now, when I look at him, I don't know who his mother and his father is, but I would assume
he's French. He's French, and then I think African American or something. I think he's. I've been told he's French.
Okay, one of the parents is white.
He's Black. He's French.
Okay, all right. So he's mixed. Okay, but not only him, but also another member of the Jazz basketball team, and he's Black. Okay, he's
from Cameroon.
Been tested positive.
He's from Cameroon.
Oh, okay. But he's Black.
Okay, yeah, but let's make this clear. These people travel globally. So, you know, if we're talking about how people commune, this is really about a communal disease, right? A distancing, an understanding. Both of these people do a lot of international travel. They have the means and the well-being to do that. We don't have that. That's why the numbers are higher. So just because they're Black, you can't use them as an example because these people travel.
Yeah, you can look at, okay, where have they been? Has he traveled in the last year? Well,
absolutely. They've got the money. These are multimillionaires. These are millionaires. You know, we're in a global society, especially those who are in the athletic or entertainment industry. Those people jump on a plane like saying, I'm going to go up the street and order my best ice cream, go buy some ice cream. This is normal for them.
Yeah, so you have individuals, Blacks, who have contracted this COVID-19 virus, but I haven't seen any indication that any of them have died from it. No indications of that. Now, but anyone who's saying that Black people are immune to it, you know, they need to cut that out. They need to stop. Okay, just stop. And also, I want to add this also, Shirley.
Excuse me.
That scientifically, never in human history, has any virus from an animal jumped from an animal to humans and then caused a worldwide pandemic. That has never happened, ever. And it's not happening right now. This COVID-19 is and was created in a laboratory. That's where it was created at. Now the question is, where was it created? You know, like you had anthrax, the 9/11 attacks and all. You saw anthrax being spread and sent to members of Congress. Tom Daschle, they sent it to him to scare the hell out of him because Tom Daschle was against the Patriot Act. Okay, so they wanted to scare certain people, so they would send this anthrax in letters in an envelope to these people. Now, and when that happened, that moved all of the members, almost virtually all the members, let's say 99% of the members of Congress, in line to support the Patriot Act. It scared them. All right, now, but what I'm saying that to say this: they genetically sequenced that anthrax that was in those envelopes, and by sequencing that, you can tell what laboratory it came from. In other words, anthrax that Germany's level 4 lab may have, it has a certain fingerprint, a certain DNA to it.
Right.
Anthrax that United States.
So if we look at, not to cut you off, but if we look at the coronavirus, though, T, in conjunction to its components, that petri dish components, my understanding, it has the DNA of bats within it, and that is not something normally we eat in America. So the components out of Wuhan, China, of this created in Wuhan, China. Remember, this is something that came from allegedly a meat market. Has clarified that understanding that footprint is there. Now there's talk of, oh, it came out of America. President Trump created this virus. That is not true.
But also question, what policy, to go back to what T. West asked regarding the anthrax and getting the Patriot push through, what policy do you think is coming that they're using to push through, or what do you think the next plan is?
As far as the policies they're implementing, I think right now
the
it's
coronavirus go through.
The number one thing is today is the day of prayer. So all of the administration continues to tell us to pray, and that they are putting legislation together to combat the fact that many citizens are going to be out of work. They're anticipating the numbers to go up. So it's more of a prep of safety, sanity, and concern of health. What policies will do to deal with that? That is a good question. But I love what T. West said earlier. I mean, let's go back to what T. West is saying. Where did this virus commune and come from? And the fact and the force of U.S. history, we've never seen animal transmission of diseases from animals to humans, but yet we know this virus comprised of bats. I mean, T. West is right on point when he's talking about that.
Yeah, see, a virus can transfer from an animal to a human, but if you have a strong immune system, the chances of an animal virus coming directly from that animal and affecting you is very, very slim. If you have a weak immune system, it is more probable that that can happen. Now, an animal virus that transfers from one animal to one human does not translate into a pandemic. That does not happen. Okay. So, but also when you look at the gene sequencing of COVID-19, you also see traces of HIV. You see traces of Ebola also. Okay. You see that with this, I'll call it what it is, man-made, manufactured virus. Okay.
Say that again. T. West, say that one more time so I can sink into people. Say it again.
Man-made, manufactured virus.
Okay.
Now it's a question of who did it? Who did it? Now, on the program today, I talked about a German company that is on the verge of producing a vaccine for it. The United States is very, very strongly and fervently trying to buy that German company and get it to move to the United States. All right. Now, why? Well, they didn't tell you the real reason why. They're telling you, well, if they're going to find a vaccine, we want it to be here in America. But there's already a Boston company who say they already have a vaccine for it, but it needs to go through all of the stages and red tape, the testing and everything for that. There's another Israeli company that says they're close to having a vaccine for it. Now, but back to the German company. The German company could very possibly be, well, they would know this. Okay, they have the knowledge to know this. Determining the source of COVID-19. Where or what lab did this COVID-19 originate from? Did it originate from the Wuhan level 4 lab in China? Or did it originate from somewhere here in the United States, a lab here? Or did it originate in Israel? Okay. Now we know that the hardest hit countries so far is China, followed by
Italy
and Iran.
Iran, right. Okay. But if you look from a state perspective, California has been the highest deaths, and California has the highest number of illegal immigrants and international travel with Bradley International Airport, and the fact we have the largest Asian population. So if you're in California, you have the highest risk in this process.
Yeah, Shirley, I think you had said death. I think it's when you look at death, the state of Washington so far, New York might have passed them up today.
I meant West Coast though, not California, but West Coast.
West Coast, yes.
I know because of the senior living facility, they have been quarantined the highest. That's correct. I stand corrected.
Yeah. So what you have here is possibly the German government said to the German company, says, look, we will pay whatever is necessary to keep you here in Germany as a German company, as a you moving to the United States. Now, some of you know, if you saw the program today, some of you know that after World War II, the United States brought German bio warfare scientists to the United States, as well as rocket scientists. They brought them here. All right. And now what you're seeing the United States trying to get this particular German company to move to the United States, bring their research to the United States. Not that the United States don't have the people who have the capability of finding and producing a vaccine. They're trying to, in my opinion now, and I strongly believe this, the United States is trying to buy out that company. Just like if you don't want the competition, if you don't want a company who's going to snitch on you and say that COVID-19 came out of Fort Detrick or came from whatever lab, wherever in the United States, or came from Israel, if you don't want that, you buy them out and then you shut them up because you own everything after that. So that's why.
If we were to look at this video, there's two perspectives here. One, we're talking about a local level, and then one, we're talking about an international level of responsibility and finding a solution of who controls the power of that solution, of that responsibility regarding the coronavirus. I will say this much. I don't know if many of you know this or not, but 90% of the pharmaceutical business, allegedly, give or take 80 to 90 to 100%, not 100%, but 80 to 90, is controlled by China. And so China has a lot of control of our goods, of our free labors, of a lot of stuff and clothes and items are made from China. So my question to you who are watching, Flagship, tell me your input on the response of China as far as embargo. I mean, what T. West said is very validated. If we're going to look at how to find the cure regarding this disease, what is your take on it, Flagship? I really want to hear.
On that particular, I don't have enough knowledge to speak on that, so I don't want to speak on something I don't know that much about.
Okay.
So I just want to just put that out. I don't have enough information about that, so I don't want to speak on that specific topic.
No problem. T, what's your take on that? I mean, here we have a pharmaceutical industry controlled by China. And now we have a disease allegedly, we believe, I still say Wuhan, China, and the fact that they have a meat market and their regulation of health and sanitation laws are different than America. You're talking about a country that is controlled and operated by authoritarianism. We are a capitalist administration. We are a socialist administration in the sense of liberal socialism. Those are different platforms and different democracies of operation of how we interact versus how other countries do, and their responsibility and the irresponsibility of China, knowing the numbers that came out of Wuhan. Again, the pharmaceutical industry and the things coming from China. Will we see in the future an embargo put in place?
Well, yes, China does produce a huge percentage of the medicines, the pills, and other pharmaceutical drugs that Americans use every day. They produce that, but that's a result of America's greed. That's a result of what we call pure capitalism. Okay, pure capitalism means the maximization of profits. We will do whatever we need to do to maximize our profits for our shareholders, for our employees, our CEOs, and other officials in the company. We will do that. That's what slavery was all about. Okay, it was a maximizing of profit. Okay, so China would not do this to themselves. Okay, China would not introduce a COVID-19 that would hurt its growing economy. They wouldn't do that. All right. Now, a day or two before China announced this COVID-19 in China, in Wuhan, a day before that, it was a day or two, at a conference here in the United States, and you had American officials, Attorney General Michael Barr, he was there, he was speaking, others were speaking also. And the conversation was mostly about who is America's greatest threat. And the conclusion was that China is America's greatest threat in various areas, including the 5G area. That was the situation. Anytime your leaders in America, and you have two faces to America now. You know, some people will say, well, Trump is responsible for this COVID-19. Well, no, Trump himself don't have anything to do with it. You got the deep state out there, they're operating. And you realize that mainstream media, they have been trying to score some big points, some huge points behind this COVID-19 situation, score them against Trump. Okay. Now, China has no motive for it, but the United States definitely have a motive for it. Now, if you look at Iran, if you look at the people that it is killing and affecting in Iran, who have a motive against Iran and also have the capability of producing something like a COVID-19? Israel. The nations also who have the capability of producing something like a COVID-19, those are also the nations that are in the forefront of also being the first to manufacture a vaccine. So therefore, an Israeli company, an American company.
But let me give you a different perspective. Mr. West, if I can give you another perspective, let me show you this video of how, see, the problem I have with China is this. Whoever we're going to say are the creators or the originator of this virus, which is a worldwide epidemic right now. In America, please get the thumbs up and share this video. And we want the community to understand we are on the verge of being shut down. We are shutting down this country. And so there's concerns of resources being available and us being able to have access to be able to get out. That's the purpose of us talking in this video about what's going on in California, what is going on nationally, particularly since Gavin Newsom came out today and basically said he is isolating the elderly people 65 years and older. And who will be responsible to making sure the medical and the medicine and water gets to these people, because we all have medicines. You might have high blood pressure, and you might be having pills that you need to be picked up, prescriptions that need to be picked up monthly, quarterly. How are we going to deal with this? How will this all be allocated? On top of, there's two conversations going on here. On top of what our brother West is letting us know. Look, there's some motivation, there's some reasoning to why this virus is taking place, because I know that's in the back of a lot of our minds, the conspiracy theory of why, what out of every virus, why is this so crucial? And like he said, this is the first one that we can think of that has got this petri dish of a combination of stuff in it that we've never heard before, that was manufactured by man and not by human, but human who have basically implemented this virus that is now out there, and where it originated from. Now, I understand where T's coming from. He's saying, well, why would China do this to themselves? T, I want to show you this video that I found. I want to get your take on this video. And then we also, Flagship, I want you to chime in. Not yet, but I want to get your input. But T, let's watch this video. Give me your take on this.
In late December, as the number of cases increases, doctors in Wuhan begin sharing information in a private chat group.
Well before any of us knew about the coronavirus, there were people who tried to sound the alarm. So there were a group of whistleblowers who'd heard that there was this virus cluster, and they started speaking about it. Now, in particular, there was one doctor, Li Wenliang. He posted on a chat group with his former university classmates that people had been coming in with what he thought was the SARS virus.
7 SARS cases were confirmed in the Huanan seafood market. The main mode of transmission of the virus is droplet transmission at close range or contact with respiratory secretions of patients. This can cause a special pneumonia that is evidently contagious and capable of affecting multiple organ systems. It is also called SARS. The patients were isolated in the emergency department of a hospital. Everyone, please be careful. That's scary. SARS is back.
The
Yes,
outbreak
it's the
revived the
Chinese
spectre of
doctors.
SARS, another type of coronavirus, which killed 774 people in 2002 and 2003.
The reason they would have been so concerned at the crosswalk is this was SARS was threefold. First of all, SARS was super infectious. Second, it had a relatively high mortality rate of 10%. And third, a large number of healthcare workers who actually died from SARS because of the complexity with stopping transmission. And I think that was the real concern.
On the same day as Dr. Lee's warning, the Wuhan Health Commission sends an urgent internal notice to hospitals on the treatment of pneumonia of unknown cause.
Some medical institutions in our city have seen patients steadily with pneumonia of unknown cause. If you find patients with unexplained pneumonia, actively adjust the resources and treat them on the spot.
The notice warns them to keep the outbreak quiet.
Without authorization, no units or individuals shall release treatment-related information to the outside.
I'm going to stop right there. I wanted you to see that part of the video because I find it interesting that how China knew about this in the earlier stages. The doctors knew about this, but they didn't want to share that with us. Now, this is around December, November. We're already in March. And I respect where you're coming from, but I have to ask you this question, Mr. West. We've got other countries like China who operate under authoritarianism, who don't even respect their people. They believe in this one man, one dominant voice for their people and their regime and how they treat their people. And what I'm hearing you say, and I understand the perspective of where you're coming from, is that they would have no reason to want this to happen to their people. I don't even think they respect their people. They're into global control. They are into population control. They've always been into population control. And we know this because we know that they treat their male different than their females in their country. So I would not put this past China to create such a disease or a virus or some type of device of that is clearly it's interesting how it goes after just the elderly and how young people are immune. Even some of the babies they see in China don't even have masks on their face. And so is it a population control? Is it an economic control? Was that all thought out? Or was this just to be able to be tested and all of a sudden it ends up in their local meat markets? What's your take on that, team?
All right. Well, the first thing I always do, I always consider the source from which the information is coming from. The source, I didn't see the name of the source, but the source appears to be, from listening to the people, the main voices, the source appears to be either Australian, which would be British, UK, or British. Okay. Now, with the British, I don't trust them in hardly anything.
I don't trust any of them, but this is CBC News and this is also ABC News. And I put the link in my last video where that came from.
Yeah,
I do think it's interesting that we're looking at people who are telling you the text of that doctor who later on in that video find he does pass away, the one that's texting and warning people, and they had him arrested. I didn't want to play that video, the length of it, but they arrested him and eventually he was infected by it and he dies.
All right, yeah, and I'm aware of that. Okay, now the source first of all, and then also what we have to look at is this, is that in the United States, something similar has happened in the state of Washington. It was similar, where people will get sick. Some of these people are dying, and people are very slow to really say, well, he or she died of this or that. They're slow about doing that. You have the same thing happening in China. Okay, this probably in China, it probably started as early as the first week of November was maybe when it all started happening.
Mhm.
It was only until later on in December where the government, the federal government, the Communist Party had picked up on all of it and says, well, wait a minute. This is a level 4 bio attack or weapon. Okay. After they discovered that and they acknowledged that, now, first of all, you had the local people in the Wuhan area. The local people there, they reacted to it differently, the local officials. But once it became more widely known by the higher ups in the Communist Party, they says, no, wait a minute. We've got to stop this. We've got to stop it now. We've got to give public exposure to this. Okay. But initially, it's just like right now, you got people in the United States going out there emptying the shelves and hoarding toilet paper, hoarding water and other things in stores. Okay. That's the initial phase of this.
I understand that, but hold on. You're going from local to federal to
no. I'm coming back. Okay. So what you have a situation where it starts out that way, but then after it goes that way, then people get a handle on it and they bring it back and it says, wait a minute, we've got to deal with this. So then what did you see China do? You saw China within a few hours totally build a big hospital where they
but you also saw authoritarianism country which would not share that information, and that's the problem I have. China is irresponsible. China does not like America or the rest of the world. They think they're gods, and they sat back and they had the information of how this virus is worse and much different than SARS, and yet they held that information, and we saw that in that video just now.
Well, no, I disagree. China, because it was happening there locally, just like things when it happens here in America, these things are held within those silos initially until it cannot be contained there anymore. Then it's shared. Once you kind of get an understanding of it, then you says, well, okay, this is what we got. This is what we need to handle. Okay. So once China got a handle on it, China started snuffing it out there in China. Now, when you have a situation like this, now you use the word, Shirley, authoritarian society. Yes, China is more of authoritarian than is the United States. Yes. Okay. Now, but right now, what you see developing in the United States is more of what you see in China, more of an authoritarian society, where in California, we're going to take the hotel, the motel by eminent domain because we're in an emergency state. We're in a state of emergency. We're in a national state of emergency. We have called out the National Guard. That is the next. What's the next level up from that? The next level up from that is martial law. What is martial law? Martial law is authoritarianism.
And I agree with you. And I also agree with you. That's why you have a situation where we are going to be quarantined. But when we look at America in conjunction of capitalism and social liberalism and democracy is much different than authoritarianism. Authoritarianism acts in the mode of what you say we are going into on a daily, everyday operational basis. That is not how America operates. Where I guess I differ from you is this. China does not share information, and they had this information, and I understand they want to keep it quiet because they don't want pandemonium. That is what a leader does. That's what a state and local and a federal leader does. They step up to the plate like me and you are having these conversations. But I have to differ from you within the sense that China does not operate the same way as we do, and China failed to tell the rest of the world. The UN even said, finally, thank God China's taking a hold and a responsibility of quarantining their state and cutting off flights. But guess what? International travel was still moving on. Guess what? We're moving into December and January with this virus of people still social communing, Christmas, New Year's, birthdays, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all these events are going on globally, and they know that. They know that countries of people flying in internationally, and they said and did nothing. That's the problem I have with them.
But Shirley, I have to say something that both are true. I mean, say for example, you're a doctor and I'm a political leader of China or whatever country. If you give me some information, I just can't take that information immediately in the immediate term and just go ahead and just shut down international travel, put it on, and put it out there in the news media, whatever. You have to do an investigation. So on one hand, they probably have to investigate, which takes a while. But then at the local level of all of us being in the same community and living close to that fish market and going on social media, they have to do what they have to do to protect their community and protect the body politic of their friends and family.
But
I think both
shut that market down. That's what I'm saying. You could have done efforts faster.
True, because you have to. But you have to also investigate as well, and also the market shouldn't have been closed down anyway, because as you said before, they had scorpions next to squid, next to octopus, next to salmon, next to shrimp, and then they had porcupines and salamanders and snakes rolling up in there with dogs in the back. So they shouldn't have been open in the first place. It was already out of pocket. So, but the thing is, when it comes to something like this, I think both sides. I don't know. I mean, you can't really say it went perfectly, but you got to also understand that the investigation has to be done, because if it gets out there and you're wrong, then you look real dumb. So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
And the other point also is this: that it was China who sequenced this COVID-19. They sequenced it. And after they sequenced it and found out, they had to do the investigation. After they did it, what they did is they shared that gene sequence with the World Health Organization. Now, what did that do? What that did, it put it out there to all of those other laboratories around the world who have the clearance for actually going in and looking at that sequence. And when you look at it, you understand that virus better. And you also understand how you might be able to create a vaccine from that. China took the lead with that. And we have to realize, we have to realize this fact.
And they should, because their mortality rates were going down. I mean, look, they are the most infected. So absolutely, I agree with you on totally 100% on that.
So what China did, they provided an example for quarantining also. Okay, now China's got at least around about 1.3 billion people. Okay, far more than the United States. And if you see a few who don't have a face mask on, you got to realize now we're talking about 1.3 billion people now. All right. So, but what China did, China locked things down. They quarantined things. So that wave, that upward ascendancy wave that you saw initially in China, that wave is now on the decline in China. That's something right now that America, the United States, is now having to try to deal with, to try to really lower that wave happening and developing here in the United States.
I totally agree. Hold on. Let me play a little bit more of this video. I really want your intake on it. Let's just a little bit more.
I have no doubt that local governments have reported the situation to the central government. So local governments were not accountable to the people at that time, but to the central government. They adopted the policy of concealing the truth from the public, but starting to control the epidemic internally. This contradiction prevented them from properly mobilizing to deal with the spread of the epidemic.
Dr. Lee and the other doctors continue to share information.
Be careful. The WeChat group of our class has been banned. The latest news is the coronavirus infection has been confirmed, and virus classification is in progress. Please don't spread the word and ask your family and loved ones to take precautions.
Do not go to the Huanan seafood market in the near future.
So when this group of doctors, I think they were university classmates from Wuhan, began sharing the information they had about a strange new virus on this sort of joint WeChat group, they were doing what you'd expect medical professions to do, to try and sort of pool information and see what was actually happening. But of course, that's a kind of dangerous thing to do in China. I think there's little doubt right now that local officials in Wuhan did withhold information. They've admitted as much. The doctors in Wuhan who were talking about it were explicitly told to shut up.
Dr. Li and his colleagues are hauled in for questioning by Wuhan police.
After investigation and verification by the public security organs, 8 offenders have been summoned and handled according to law. The police will investigate and punish with zero tolerance those illegal acts that fabricate and spread rumors and disrupt social order.
Dr. Li was disciplined by his own hospital. He was even picked up by the police and taken in and castigated and told not to spread rumors. This is what happens when you are saying things publicly that the Communist Party doesn't like. You're spreading rumors. Even if somebody is trying to tell the world about a potentially dangerous virus, the first instinct is to shut them up.
T, what's your take on that?
Well, he said what I had indicated earlier, which is the local area, they didn't know what they were dealing with, okay? And they withheld information until it just kind of like blew up. And then it's like, then they told the national party, hey, this is what's going on here. And when the national party found out, then you started seeing the national party, the Chinese government nationally doing something about it. It's similar right here in the United States, in the state of Washington, okay? When you had a lab there in the state of Washington, they had the ability to look at this COVID-19, a person who was a specimen who was infected with it. And they says, whoa, this is bad. This is really bad. But because of certain red tape in America, okay, they could not take that information because it was personal information. That's, related to like HIPAA. HIPAA is rules on the healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid, all that healthcare stuff, okay? You got rules and laws out there that regulates that. They couldn't take it and send it up to the CDC and say, hey, look, can you look at this? And this is specimen, this is this person. Can you do this? Well, they couldn't do it because there was red tape here in the United States. Now in China, once it comes up to the central government says to the underlings, hey, look, step back, get out of the way. We're going to take care of this. Here in the United States, you'll have lawsuits on your hand. Okay, you'll have lawsuits on your hand if the machines that help you breathe, your lungs to breathe, if you are infected by this, if the government said, look, we want those machines. And you say, well, these machines cost $300,000. And the government says, we want them and we can't pay you right now. We're not going to pay you. Well, in China, they'll say, oh, no. Give me the machines right now. Okay. In the United States, they weren't able to do that unless you have something like a state of emergency or a martial law, a state of martial law. Okay.
Do you think we're moving towards that right now? Do you think that we're going to move towards a country, which I believe that we're moving towards a country where you're going to start seeing quarantine? I think that's one reason they're doing all these testing locally.
Well, you already have quarantine in certain areas already anyway.
Washington State has quarantine certain, as well as New York. But are we going to see more because of the testing that are going to be out there, relatively available soon?
Oh yeah. And look, imagine this for a moment. Imagine mandatory testing. Okay, once they're able to get these test kits up to a certain level of efficiency and get a sufficient number of them, you might see mandatory testing. Okay, because young children can carry this COVID-19. They can carry it.
Share that. Say that so that people understand that.
Okay, young children, their immune systems are strong. Most young children, their immune systems are strong. Okay, so they'll fight off a virus. And that virus, they may be a carrier of it, but it won't kill them. It won't stop them. Okay. But that same virus could jump on somebody maybe who's 70 years old, or somebody who is who have already some lung problems or some other organ problems. It could jump on them and it'll kill them immediately. It'll kill them quickly, but it won't kill most of these young children, but they can be carriers. All right. So you might have eventually in this country, you might have a case where the government will try to make a case for mandatory testing. Okay. Why? Because if you got it, that means you can spread it. That means it's not like the common influenza flu. It's not like that. This stuff will kill people. Well, you know, influenza flu kills people too, but this stuff kills people fast. Okay. And it kills people who vote.
It also can stay live on surfaces so that you guys know that. That's why I created those bottles where you can spray. Make sure you watch the wash your hands video that I provided a couple of videos back, and make sure you guys get the thumbs up. We have some great people who are watching right now. We have T West from Afro Synergy News and Flagship, who's like my sidekick, who's always on board on what we're talking about. It is crucial that we understand what is going on nationally, internationally, and locally, because it's changing minute by minute. Today is March what is today? Today is March Sunday, the day of prayer, March the 15th. And we are talking about the coronavirus in the conjunction of where we're at. T. West is very correct in what he's stating regarding there are certain states that are already quarantined. Your state might be becoming more quarantined. I do believe that you need to be responsible and picking up items that are about more of a survival, more than I was in the store and this girl saying, this is not healthy what people are buying. I thought it was interesting that she didn't understand health provision versus stabilization of just survival provisions that are needed, like dry foods and rice and beans. I know many of you guys are stocking up on toilet paper, don't know why. But listen to what T. West is saying. What he's saying has a lot of validation when we talk about how this disease is transmitted. It can get transmitted through young people. It can get transmitted through just things on the countertop. I said earlier, again, just to go back to the title of this video, Gavin Newsom has implemented 65 to 80 years or older, 65 or older need to be isolated. So if you have elderly people in your family members, they need to be isolated. Nightclubs, bars, wineries, and breweries, they're going to be shut down. Restaurants will continue to be open, but they will be required to create a social distance. What does that mean, Shirley? Social distance means that chairs will have a certain parameters of how much you can sit between. I did not agree with Gavin Newsom when he said regarding the homeless. He says there's 108,000 people who are homeless. There are more than that. And a large of these people are African-American descendants of slaves. T. West was in California. We walked the streets of Los Angeles 2 years ago when Urban Game Changers had an event at Politicon. And as we walk these streets, there are people who are created these communities, these encampments that are all around, that are protective of each other. These encampments, if you are watching, you are homeless, your encampment will be disbarred and taken apart. According to Gavin Newsom, there are going to be hotels and motels, write that down, people, to be provided for your people. 80 to 85% of the schools and the school districts in California will be shut down. Make sure you check and go to CALOES.ca.gov. I've got it trending and as a ticker on the bottom of this video if you're watching from YouTube, to make sure you write that down. Kern County apparently will be open, but if I was a parent of young children, my children are grown, I would not have my children in school. T. West, what are the solutions? What are some of the solutions? Can we talk about solutions right now? All this uncleanness and people not, people still don't wash their hands. Being in California, I'm sorry, I live in a state that's kind of strange to me because we got all this globalists, we have all this international travel, and our culture, meaning the American culture, is different than in Iran, are different in China, for example, and correct me, T, if I'm wrong, in certain Middle Eastern countries, one hand you eat with, the other hand you wipe your body with. So that's why they always teach you to greet them with this particular hand when speaking with them. A lot of people don't wash before they leave the bathroom. Certain celebrities have admitted that they don't wash their hands, and they're very proud of that. These are strange people, but these are people that we commune with. that we interact with, and we would be surprised of their personal hygiene habits or cultural hygiene habits. How do we deal with that in solutions in our own lives, T? And I would love, I know Flagship, you're there. Don't be so quiet because I know how much you love T. T, I want to hear your input, and then I would love Flagship on that.
Well, no, I'm waiting for you to get to the part where you start talking about how they're doing all these bailouts and stuff. That's what I've been researching regarding this. So I'm just waiting to get to that point.
Tell me about the hygiene issue. I know there was some questions in the chat room about uncleanliness, about that. I had posted that just a second ago. There is some uncleanliness of different cultures of people. Lucky Sports had mentioned some things, and I know that Carolyn had mentioned some things. Ronnie had mentioned some things. Herb Saint had mentioned it. Tell me, if we are going to be this global economy, which we are, and we have integrated so heavily, especially in California, with all these other cultures, where's the responsibility for us to understand that these people don't have the same hygiene level than we do? How do we deal with that?
Well, you try to stay away from people who are not clean, okay? Period. I mean, even before COVID-19, people who don't keep themselves clean, you try to avoid them. Now, some people, they're like that because, they don't have much, okay? And they can't do much, okay? So you understand that, but you got other people, who just because they don't do good hygiene, okay? They just won't do it. They can't. They have the money, they have the know-how, but they won't do it. So
why can't they wash their hands? Why can't they just kind of say, okay, I'm in Western civilization, I'm in America. Why can't they keep themselves clean? And why do I have to understand that's their culture and put myself in harm's way?
Well, some people don't give a damn, okay? Some people don't give a damn. And that's about Americans, Americans too, American citizens. They don't give a damn, okay? All right. So, and you got people like that. But, for each one of us, and you've already talked about, hygiene and all that. But let's also realize this. They're telling you how they think it spreads and how, in some instances, they know it spreads. Okay. They're telling you that. But you've got to realize that you don't have to touch people to get these influenzas. You could just be in a certain area. This stuff floats around in the air.
It's airborne.
It's airborne, yeah. That's another reason why some people wear these masks. Good, some of the masks are not so good. Okay, but the bottom line is this: what you want to do is you want to try to stay as healthy as you can individually, as you as healthy as you can. And when you're healthy, usually your immune system is healthy. You have to keep that immune system strong because you cannot totally protect yourself from viruses. They're around. They've always been around. They were around before humans were around. Okay. And they'll probably be around when humans are not around anymore. They will be around, in fact. Okay. So they're always looking for a host. Okay. They're looking for somebody, a body that they can get into and then go in and get into the cells there and transcribe the cells to do what they want the cells to do. Okay, so you have that, and we have to realize that. So just hygiene, good hygiene. Y'all folks learn that. Y'all learned that in grade school. Okay, so
and Shirley and T. West and Shirley, after y'all get done, I got something.
Yeah.
Okay, and also let's just kind of take this back historically as well. Keep in mind that all like essential oils, body butters like shea butter and cocoa butter, that stuff. We've had access to that on the continent of Africa. We didn't have these pandemics and these outbreaks. And even if you study European history of the first settlers that went to southern part of Africa, they said Black folks, we didn't get sick for anything. And keep in mind, it was the Moors who came up there and came up to Europe and taught them how to clean, using essential oils, wash your hands, wash your silverware. And even in history, even though Black people have been kind of wiped out of history, they talk about the medieval times. They talk about Europe. They talk about how just they would, after a feast, they would use their hands after battle, not wash their hands or anything like that. And then also they'll just like just put hay over all the leftover food and things of that nature.
That's
now,
true.
and those same practices still came here even after they came here in America. Remember the book called The Jungle? How they were talking about the meat packing industry and the seafood packing industry and the chicken industry, and how they would have butcher shops right next to these tenement houses, and people were getting sick. And getting all these pandemics kept going around. Now, mind you, let's juxtapose that to Black folks. Even when we was in slavery, we was all cooped up in the slave quarters. There was no pandemonium. They kept us from, there was no kind of like disease or anything we would get. And keep in mind, we all lived in one big old house. One small little shack. We wasn't getting all these kind of airborne diseases and things of that nature.
No, we weren't. Hey,
so the only disease we were getting is just oppression. So I mean, I think it's just a different culture. And especially with the Chinese, like you showed before, those videos, the bats and the salamanders and the squid, it just don't even if you're not even biblical, that just don't even look right. You know what I mean? It shouldn't go together. But I just think that I think that Black people overall, we can get it, like T West said, and we can get anything. But I just think that our culture of cleanliness overall we're gonna be able to get through this problem.
I agree. Well, MC's in the house, Flagship. I love Flagship. MC's in the house. MC, is your voice coming through?
Oh, great.
And Brian, coming on next. Go ahead, MC.
I'm a retired Marine. I've been here 22 years, 7 months. Back in 2005, we had a what we call a force com drill. It was all the different military forces with the Department of Navy. This plays back to a drill that we had back in 2005 when we had a pandemic. And one of the things that they said is we will run out of food. And that was because of trade agreements, bad trade agreements. Even though we acted like what's going on now is what's been predicted. Majority of our food come from overseas, and we're starting to really see I would say this is a learning point for us. You know, we need to really start looking at who we put in office, who we vote for.
Yes.
Trump has been very excellent in dealing with China and bringing things back here to be manufactured, because, you know, at this point, we haven't hit rock bottom yet, but I would say sometime this week or next week, we will, because where do we get all these parishes from? What do we got to look to other states, and other states may not have anything.
So what do you mean by rock bottom? I need you to clarify that.
Rock bottom meaning that we're going to look to other states to get food, and we don't have. We haven't been producing anything. Past several administrations have left our farmers in a really bad position, to where a lot of them went out of farming. And so we looking at farmers now to where they can't produce massively because of corporate farmers. And these corporate farmers, there's only so many of them.
Are we going to see more martial law in place? Do you think we'll see more of that?
Food rationing, which that's a part of martial law. If you don't see Costco's doing it, they're food rationing. And it's real inconvenient right now for us, because we are not used to living like that. So I was listening to one channel today, and I just felt the lady had it all wrong when she said, people with means can go shopping, and the people that was on welfare, couldn't go shopping. But the thing is, what I saw today is I saw more people that didn't look like us occupying lines. And this is what, as a result of accepting illegal immigration,
what state are you in, MC?
Oh, I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay, so you're in California with me. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. And so we're looking at, we're so overcrowded that the markets that we have, if we don't have the markets don't have the capacity to feed the overcrowdedness, and they've never seen that. And that was one of the things that we talked about in the drill. But the general gave the outcome to President Obama of that drill, and Obama did nothing about it. And the Congress, Senate, they never looked at it. They just said, hey, we did a drill. But that whole drill was carried out by the Bush administration to see if what would happen if we had, gone into a pandemic and went through a shortage of food. We came out with the results and said what needed to happen. And really, it hasn't started happening, and trade agreements haven't started changing until actually Trump got in.
Interesting. I appreciate your insight. I really do.
That was in our favor.
Let's hear a little bit from Brian. Brian's in the chat room with us. I love you, gentlemen, because a lot of you here are from California. T. West is globally, internationally. He travels to Ghana. He has the strongest perspective from different aspects and worlds. But dealing with Gavin Newsom in California, Brian, what's your take on the talk tonight? And tell me, what do you feel about it?
Hey, Shirley, hey, y'all. I just wanted to place the blame squarely where it belongs, back onto China. I believe that China has really, really set this thing on fire. There's a lot T. West is leaving out as far as how China has been not telling the numbers. So say, for instance, someone dies, they aren't reporting that this person dying from the particular virus. They'll say, well, we didn't get there in time to test the person, so therefore they didn't die from the disease. We cannot trust China's numbers. Italy's numbers are correct. South Korea's numbers are correct. We cannot rely on China for anything. And what I would encourage you guys to Google is that the China One Path, the China Belt Road Initiative. If you follow that graph, Shirley, if you could pull that China graph, I don't know if you can do that, but if you pull up that graph, that's exactly where the virus is. These workers have been in place. China has a ton of relationships with Iran and Italy. And now China blamed Italy and came back and blamed US. And now they're blaming Italy again for this. We got to keep the blame where it is, protect our people, and move forward.
No, I totally agree. The T. West, what do you think about that? You have two people here who kind of agree but disagree with you on the whole case of the origin of this virus and the responsibility of it.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine if they disagree. But the fact is that when you sequence the virus, eventually they will find out exactly where it started at. And just because you first heard, Brian, about it in China does not mean that it started in China. All right. Now, secondly, with the One Belt, which is partly mimicking the old path of the Silk Road where lots of ancient trade occurred and all. Now, whenever the United States says that a particular nation is its greatest threat, okay? At one time, the Native Americans were considered United States of America's greatest threat. What did America do to its Native American people? It nearly wiped them out, okay? Now, one day, 2 days before the announcement of what happened in Wuhan. There was a meeting. The Attorney General, Michael Barr, was there, along with other people, important people, American people. And that discussion was all about China is our greatest threat. One day, 2 days later, you hear about COVID-19 in Wuhan, China. Now, I come from the perspective of history. You do not understand the contemporary unless you understand history. So there was a motive for this. Was the United States behind it? We don't know yet, but people are looking. Lots of people are looking. Germany is looking. They're looking. So
and China is looking for a way out. And China is looking for people to blame. And you helping them, T. West. You're helping them.
That's okay.
You're assisting China a dictatorship. A dictatorship that's locking in its people to sway your opinion, sir.
Okay, well, listen.
I can't believe that.
Listen. Well, believe this. You just said that China is locking in its people. That is totally not true. China's people travel all throughout the world. They're all up through California. You go to the Grand Canyon in Arizona, they're there at the Grand Canyon. They're everywhere all over the globe. So when you say
Africa,
people, that is not true, my dear brother Brian.
You said that
they are locking. I said since the outbreak, China has been locking its citizens within Wuhan.
That's called a quarantine.
There is no.
Brian. That's what they're doing, preparing to do here in the United States, Brian. Okay,
but we will still be able to speak out about it. We'll still be able to go online. They're operating on VPNs right now. We cannot compare ourselves to them. There is no comparison to what those people have no kind of say so, and it's horrible. It's horrible.
That is not true. That is not true. That the people have no say so. Okay, you have a little bit more say so right now in the United States than most Chinese. Okay, but they do have some say so. And also, in a state of emergency, more and more of your rights right now, Brian, is being taken away. After 9/11 happened, the Patriot Act, more of your rights were taken away. A state of emergency, national state of emergency, you call it the National Guard. The National Guard has been activated. They're taking away more and more of your rights. Okay? That's right
Mr.
here.
West.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I
go ahead?
Can I say T. West is right in some ways. Before active duty troops are called in, they have to call a National Guard in. And that's to set what they call a kamikaze. I forgot the name of the word, but it's actually the National Guard has to be called first before active duty troops be called in. And when active duty troops are called in, then that's martial law. The National Guard cannot impose a martial law by itself.
Right.
The only way martial law is completed is an active duty, like they have the 82nd Airborne that comes in, which is a 911 force, in our 33rd MEU, which is Marine Expeditionary Unit. They come in, then that's martial law. So we're looking at the first stages of what's getting ready to happen, and that's unfortunate.
That's right. That's right.
I totally agree with you, but I have to go back to the Rodney King riots. For those of us who live in California, they did shut down the state, and that we did have martial law. And for those who lived here, you guys remember, we couldn't go out after 6 p.m. If you were out after 6 p.m., you could be shot on sight. So, and they weren't playing with that. So when it was out of control. So for those who live here, we have lived, I can say in my lifetime, I've lived, and those who are listening and those who are on the panel, I'm sure they remember, they shut the state down. They stopped all that chaos because people were just hoarding and stealing, and they lost their mind. And I thought it was interesting that the states and the Fed would let them do it as long as they did for those 3 or 4 days, almost a week that went wrong with that. Flagship, you're awful quiet. Say something out there, Flagship. What is your take on where this panel is going with, the difference between China and America? He stepped away real quick. I'm going to go back to Brian. Brian, what is your take on what MC is saying?
But I'm martial law. I'm not familiar with martial law declarations. I don't think most Americans are. I mean, I've lived through Katrina, so I've experienced, and this kind of feels similar. There's a lot of waiting. There's a lot of unknown.
Where are you located, Brian?
In New Orleans.
Okay, so you're in New Orleans. T. West is in Arkansas. I'm in Los Angeles, California. MC is in California, so it's Flagship. MC, do you remember martial law when Rodney King took place?
Yeah, the 92 riots. That's a great example of martial law because they first called the National Guard. Then they got to do another 24 hours. Then the commander go ahead and say that they need more resources. And so they federalize it. So when they federalize it, that means they got to lock everybody down or pretty much impose a martial law, which everybody got to be in by 6. So
yeah,
the state can function.
Sundown, it was crazy.
Yeah, the state can function, but by 6 o'clock, everybody got to be bedded down.
Right. And it really didn't even matter if you had a night job. You couldn't even say, well, I'm working tonight. They said, oh, no. Everybody had to be locked down. Well, we have an amazing...
That was actually working with security.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right on that. I think security was a whole. It was interesting to see the martial law out there with guns. I mean, rifles. It was some serious martial law. We didn't have the illegal immigration problem as we do today. Gentlemen, we have another person on board. The pragmaticist. I never can say it right. The Nameless, Mr. Nameless. Thank you for coming on board. I know you've been listening. We have the amazing T. West, Professor T. West, we should call him, because T. West is just such a great jewel to our community. He is getting abroad, as many of the people here, Flagship and Brian and MC 007. What's your take on this whole thing with California? I think you may be here, and Gavin Newsom implementing certain laws and restrictions, and the conversation of who is responsible, and is California communal to China, having a relationship with them? Is America similar to the laws of China? Where do you want to go? Which one you want to choose to talk about?
That was a mouthful. Also, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me up here. Let's see. I didn't catch the entire conversation because I just got off work. So when I came in, I was hearing a lot of routine information you guys were going over. And then it came back to the point of origin. I guess I can kind of start there. Obviously, a lot of us can only make educated guesses and assumptions, but we do need to look at the bigger picture, which is what the brother was saying earlier about how we don't necessarily know who got caught with this hot potato as far as who originated it. But what we do know is we have a gene editing system known as CRISPR. And when you have something like RNA, which is what a virus is, it is highly susceptible to mutation. That's the nature of a virus, right? And that's exactly how the CRISPR system was developed. It was developed by watching bacteria literally resequence its own DNA to trick viruses so that the virus thinks that it's already infected it and it moves on. And the protein in particular that it isolates is known as Cas9. So if you want to do some more research on that, you guys kind of should, because it'll really enlighten you to the nature of how far ahead people are on this research. And keep in mind, the system just really kind of came online in 2017. So this is brand new. And this is largely not being discussed by people, even really in the medical field, surprisingly. You would think people would be all over this. So I'll backtrack this a little bit to also what was said about China being seen as a global threat. There's a book you guys really need to read called Tragedy and Hope: The History of the World in Our Time. And that that novel was basically a assertion, a reinterpretation of history, modern history, done by a professor that he was actually Bill Clinton's professor. Was that Georgetown? Might have been Georgetown. And he ultimately predicted everything we see going on as far as China's behavior, because the central theme of that book is, if you're going to continue to have a European empire, you need to contend with China. And this has just been a historical issue back and forth historically. And if I recall, recently, Trump just came back from the Forbidden City in China, and they had a meeting with regards to that. I'm gonna piggyback on what the brother just said. I'm not remember. I can't see people's names, but I believe he's the one that has the display up there. Yeah, it's not showing his name, but
you talking about T West?
Yeah, I think it's T West that it said
brother, who you can see his face, right? That's T West.
Yeah, I believe he was defending the point earlier about that, and I'm kind of co-signing in that people need to consider that China is one of the few places in the world where the type of what's the term they have for that? They're ethics boards. That's what I'm thinking. Ethics boards that regulate the use of technologies like this. And the science community has been begging people to come out and ask for governments to provide regulation and guidance on where they should go with a lot of these things. They have conferences about this quarterly, and they talk about these issues. People have to understand that China has started an initiative back in 2000 where they wanted to produce every year 1 million engineers and scientists to help push the Chinese economy forward. That was back in 2000. So here in 2020, you now have an excess of expertise, including resources, that people could take technology like this and do it commercially. That's very important, because while this could have been something that did originate from the US, like who knows, right? Everybody kind of has access to this that's a world power. And it's very possible that this could have been a ploy to, expose China with regards to that. Because if you look at Wuhan, that's where their iteration of the CDC is at. I think you said something earlier in one of the videos. It was like 19 million people over there just in the city. So, I mean, for as far as, its population density and all of that, if you're going to have something go down like that, that would be where it happened. So as far as its origins, we need to really consider that this could be a very high level controlled thing that it's kind of over our heads with regards to that. And it reminds me of the Spanish flu drama, in that there's a lot of evidence to show that was manipulated, but now it's a seasonal thing. And when you look at the numbers behave similarly. If you look at it as an aggregate, because I guess now, since it's a so-called novel virus, we haven't had 100 years to build up a resistance to it like we have the regular influenza, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what you need to look at with regards to that. With the next topic, people, and this point was brought up too, people have completely underestimated how it changed the Constitution when the Patriot Act was introduced in 2001. Or was it 2001, 2002? The Patriot Act gave a whole new way people could address emergencies that at first required Congress. And it added other stipulations to the definition of emergency, which is what people have to pay attention to. So it includes not just weather phenomenon, but in particular things such as this. So I'm not really of the school of the prepper school with regards to that, of the folks that, really get big on that. But I just want people to just have an awareness that they need to go back and read that document, because there's a lot of powers that your local and state governments have if a state of emergency is declared.
I think that it became weaponized. I think that bill or that law that went in place, that people forget about that, that people may not know that the police and their actions don't have to operate according to the feds. They can just take authoritarianism into place and wear gear and go right in and rambunctiously go into your home. That Patriot Act, which was not during the Trump administration, let's clarify that, It's something to be content with. Definitely content with. Any other gentleman on the panel? What's your thought on that? Byron?
No, it's thought provoking. But I still want to place the blame with China. I'm firmly there. Wuhan, in the wet markets where a lot of these diseases outbreak from. I mean, you can look at MERS, SARS, no matter who, if you believe it came from this or that, the science says it all. It's there. And that's where I'm at. And I'm not taking the blame off of China. They're going to own it. China dropped off supplies to Italy. Imagine that, dropping off to the abuser, dropping off its supplies to looking like a benevolent giant, right? No, not even. I'm not falling for it, and I hope the American people don't fall for this. And like the gentleman said, they're creating engineers. China wants to be number one at everything. But unfortunately, they have not been able to innovate. They can duplicate, but they cannot innovate. Those hospitals T. West was speaking of, they were shells. They were poorly constructed. Yeah, they were erected in a few hours or something like 2 days or something ridiculous. But they said that they were open spaces. They weren't properly staffed. They weren't properly China is a facade. It's a complete facade.
I just don't know how they're any more guilty than any other group. I think everybody at a certain level is involved with regard to that. And it's very possible this could have been a blunder. You know, I personally think what happened at the end of the day.
If it was a blunder, China would never admit that. And I'm not saying that.
Of course they would.
America would.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Exactly. But this is the type of nation you're dealing with. This could have been handled so much differently.
Maybe, but obviously they got to save face. They couldn't contain it, and so now they have to have a narrative with regards to that. So I don't want to get tripped into that point and digress, because I honestly think you both are speaking things that can be concurrently true, if that makes sense. I don't think there's an antagonistic argument here. China should be held accountable. Period. It's just that obviously there's a higher game being played here. And it has been for a long time, and it's outside the lexicon of most politics that we typically see. So, frankly, I think everybody whose hands that are in the pot with regards to that share a degree of liability, but the ball went out on China here. So, possession on the other side, there's no discussion after that.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. If it's a game and the ball went out on you, it's on you.
I totally agree. Can you guys look at your screen real quick? I want to share with this gentleman. This is in Wuhan, China. This is something that happened in Wuhan, China a couple of weeks back, maybe a month or two back. But I want to share what his thoughts are. T, you said something. Just watch this video. You said something that was interesting to me. You said how we are going to be quarantined could be similar to China. And I disagree with you. I totally agree with Brian. I'm going to put full blame on China. I'm not going to put under this method or ideology that I believe the liberals are trying to push, that this came from America and Trump is trying to make it so that we move the powers back to America. I understand where you both are coming from, but I'm not going to take the irresponsible blame away from China. But hold on, T. Let me just play this one part, and then I want you to come in and share your thoughts, because everyone has been addressing this. I really want to hear your point of view, but hold your thoughts and watch what your gentleman has to say.
Didn't make the list for the flight with Qantas and asked me if I was still interested in leaving. I informed them that I'm not leaving without her.
His wife is Chinese and he's from Australia. And he says he's not leaving.
It's very dire. There's queues outside the hospitals now. We're not allowed near them. There's people dropping on the footpath, literally. Okay, I know how bad it is. I can't wait to get out of here. It's terrible.
I guess he an actor, T. West. Is he an actor?
No, he got stuck in there. He was stuck in his home and he's broadcasting. So what China does is they spray their community.
They've been doing this all through the city regularly.
So they're starting to spray the front doors. Now, this could happen in America.
Going out and spraying disinfectant around everybody's doorways. So I suspect they're spraying to stop infections coming out of the sewer. I better go in and shut the door. I've seen medical folks turn up 2 doors away from me, 20 metres from my front door, and take a lady away that was infected. They also took a son. The son returned home 24 hours later. He was okay. We haven't seen or heard of the lady since.
So people have been concerned about the human rights aspects of quarantine and isolation of cases, quarantine of contacts, etc. And that's been happening on a very large scale in China, but also in Australia and other countries. From a disease control point of view, putting aside other issues, from a disease control point of view, it works.
This is how
videos emerge on social media of authorities using increasingly drastic measures. Around China, residents post scenes claiming officials are welding the doors of apartment buildings shut so people can't get out.
哎，那个是门吗？才敢那门哦，把门封的了。你看那个电焊，工在那块焊的，那中间是一个门，你看，可怕。
把门都焊死了，不让出屋了。下一个就是我们6号楼了，就是我家了。
I'm very concerned about getting this virus. I'm not even 100 metres away from one of the hospitals that's full. I've seen people entering that hospital. I've seen people getting rolled out on stretchers out of that hospital. It's literally across the road from where I come out of my apartment.
T, what's your take on this video?
Oh, well, that's a little bit, even though it's some steps down from what martial law would look like here in the United States. Certain areas of the country, California, is stepping up to that right now. Some areas of the state of Washington, same thing. New York City, same thing. They're stepping up to those things right now where, you know, you have people who are infected. They've been evaluated as being positive, and they're saying you need to stay inside. Now, you got some people who stubborn and says, no, I'm not going to stay inside. So police force, government forces will enforce that. So
but this is an authoritarianism country. China is nothing like America. Here you have where they're welding people in their homes. Come on, man.
Shirley, Shirley, listen. Let's look at things realistically. Whether your door is welded shut or whether the government put a padlock on your door to make sure that you abide by a curfew, okay?
We've never seen them put padlocks on Americans' doors.
That's coming, okay? That's coming. That's coming.
You're hypothetically saying it's coming.
No. I'm telling you right now. That is coming with certain individuals. Now, everybody did not have a padlock on their door. Those persons who tried to get out, tried to defy the curfew, because if you let them out, you're going to have tens and thousands of people dead. So right now, you have an estimated over 80,000 people in China who has been evaluated as being infected. 80,000, over 80,000. Okay, if you want that number to go up geometrically, then you allow people to just run around willy-nilly. Okay, It's coming right here to America. Okay, to some extent, more or less, it's coming right here to America. So what I saw right there was very realistic. Okay, it's very realistic. You got some unruly people. You got people who will go into a walk.
It is realistic in China. Will that happen to America? That's the question.
Huh?
I said it is realistic. It's not hypothetical. This was real videos. This is real life situations right now.
That's right. I mean, do you want to keep it at 80,000 and have that number reduced, or do you want to allow those people to just run around willy-nilly in China and then increase that, double and triple that number in China? Okay, the government is saying no. The U.S. government, any government in the world, Italy is doing the same thing. They're forcing people not to come out. They're forcing people, you're not going to have the yearly Easter celebration at the Vatican. There won't be any people there.
I think you're kind of missing the point. I think Shirley's trying to say. If you look at what just happened with those Muslims that were out there in China, and you listen to the horror stories of what was going on with them, and I've seen a lot of the media policing they do. They have a completely different way they operate.
But look, listen, that's a totally different subject matter. We're talking about this whole situation with this coronavirus. Now, you're going to the Uyghurs. I'm very familiar with that. Okay, very familiar with it. All right, but we're not talking about that.
Well, I'm talking about their ability or desire to operate as a totalitarian government. You know, that's kind of the dynamic that was brought to the table here and being presented that, okay, well, maybe it'll play out differently here. I'm not sure. Maybe it's local. I just know now where I'm at in Dallas, because I'm in Dallas now. We're seeing a lot of information that's coming out where the idea is to create this whole concept of social distancing and shutting down places where people can aggregate. And there's all these different bills that have been put out to allow people to continue to get paid if they have to go home or be quarantined because of this. So, I mean, maybe this is stage one and that's what that looks like. Quite frankly, since I'm in Texas, you know, there's a strong resistance to this kind of ordeal, this ideology, and they're very vocal about that. So maybe it plays out differently here, but we can see that when everybody else gets a cold, our demographic gets pneumonia. So maybe that'll play out differently in Oak Cliff where I'm here in Dallas. You understand what I'm saying? So I go up to Plano, it's going to be a certain way. And then you just go, 40 minutes south and it's a completely different story. So I don't think we'll know exactly how all of this looks like, but it may be, kind of relative to where you go. But I think at the end of the day, if we stick to those principles about, making sure you keep yourself healthy and stay on top of this and really look at what your local government is saying as far as the laws that it's implementing, you can read between the lines. I haven't seen an increased police presence, but there's a lot of plans that have been in place to create these scenarios where they can restock these stores and keep the stores and drugstores open. You understand what I'm saying? So we'll just have to see. The official statement has been that they're aware of what's going on in Italy and China with regards to the patterns that the infection has gone, and their issue has always been infrastructure. So in areas that could afford the infrastructure, it seems like they're able to contain the upward multiplication scenario and instead create what's known as a wave, I guess, where it goes up, but then it gets brought back down again because people are recovering from it. It's just that when the system gets overwhelmed because you've got those differences in culture that Shirley was talking about earlier, and it spreads all fast, and now you got a ton of people who need oxygen and you don't have facilities to do it. That's where they run into problems. You have people panicking because they think they're not going to be restocked and they're getting all the same things at once. And now they're hoarding. That's where they run into problems. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if this is digressing from the topic, but I just wanted to put that there.
I think that's some great insight. Brian, our MC, you guys have any input on that?
That's a valid point. It's a numbers thing. and we're going to have to get people inside, like the protagonist said. You abide by your local rule authority. Whatever your local and state, city authority is saying, I suggest you do it, and do it to the T, to the best of your ability. Because ICU beds are going to be a critical factor, because these people who are suffering from this are requiring ventilation in some cases, and about 5%. I saw New York's governor say New York City had about 6,000 beds, some odd like that, some 6,000, but 60% are full. If you have a crisis, these people have nowhere to go, literally. They'll be flying them to Dallas, where you are, protagonist. They'll be flying them all over the place. And what happens is, when you have regular things going on in life, traumas, people, I saw an article where they're canceling surgeries. I mean, we all have families and members who have scheduled surgeries coming up for various things. They're canceling this stuff. This is real. And it's a numbers game. We have to stay quarantined. We have to stay in. They say we haven't reached the peak. So it's going to be interesting few months.
Yeah, I guess personally, my big concern at the end of the day is the aftermath of the infrastructure stress and the human factor, because human nature is still the same. When you read a lot of books or autobiographies of people that describe what it was like when they went through instances like that, they'll tell you first and foremost, their biggest worry wasn't the government. Their biggest worry were other people around them. So just to put that in context, when it comes time to deciding whose kids has to eat, yours or somebody else's, that at that moment, that's when shit has officially hit the fan. And, there's some people who romanticize about that. I don't think they would if they've ever been through something like that or anything remotely close. But what you need to look at is, this is where you're going to really see classism rear its head. And you can really see the aspects of power and as they play out when you get into situations where resources start getting scarce. It's why you see this behavior when you go to prisons, no matter where you go. Keep that in mind and let it guide your decision-making process and how you posture yourself. Keep in touch with your family, see what's going on with them, where they're going and what they're doing, and understand that, even in the face of all of this, you've got market crashes. The crash in and of itself isn't an issue. Like, there's a lot of people who are going to make a lot of money off of this. However, it's the psychological effect of the people around you that you need to be concerned about. So if you have a calm head and you're able to give informed answers about what's going on and have sources that you can share, and like the brother said a second ago, look at what your local government is doing, you can really help improve the situation and make a lot of positive, instead of really buying in and sinking into this hysteria that the media is, whether it's directly or indirectly causing, is affecting people and will have real results that may bring about a self-fulfilling prophecy. So
very good points made. Very good points made, gentlemen. Another article I was reading was a gentleman who was recovering. We're talking about recovery aspect of it from this cruise that he was on recently. He said that he was drinking a lot of Gatorade. They told him to drink a lot of Gatorade. They also, I think they gave him the Gatorade because of the electrolyte. So when we talk about stocking up, like T. West said, if we do get to the point that we are like China, which I don't, I totally agree with Byron. Byron, thank you so much for coming on. I totally agree with you on that. But I think that we have to be conscious of the fact that we are in a situation of how do we store our food? How do we get ready to be contained in a container? Can we live with other family members? Because some of these folks, we can't live with our folks so well. We got to do better, folks. And so I think one of the things that we can do is get some Gatorade, like this gentleman said, and get dry foods and get ready to buckle down. But can we emotionally, like the protagonist said, can we emotionally deal with each other to that extent? I that's my question, and I think that's my concern.
We don't got a choice, frankly. Just being 100 with you, because I know these Mexicans down here, you know, they already know what time it is. They really do. I know I've just linked up with my own personal network. We're on the same page. I just advise other people do. You really will learn what power is when you see who has the ability to change your environment, when you no longer have that agency the way you're used to. You know, when people get told don't come to work and now you're not working and you don't have that check coming in, you know, it invokes a sense of, it really shows you, you know, your real family dynamic, your real power dynamic as a group, and why culture is important. Because I know who is going to be sticking together, and we've been through stuff like this.
And I emphasize that because see us in California, we get that. These Mexicans and them Chinese, they gonna come together.
Oh,
that's why I said earlier in the video, if we're gonna talk about where again, Gavin Newsom implemented today that there will be some isolation that need to be put upon the seniors of 65 years or older. Meals, medical, and water will be provided, but they've not disclosed that yet. They've also disclosed that restaurants in California will still be open, but they will be sanctioned to have a certain space ratio. So in saying that, our people, talking about the African American descendants of slaves or Black people, need to understand that the churches and the leadership of these people who claim to be leaders need to step up to the plate and open their doors. We don't need a situation like that happened in Houston when we had Katrina, or what happened, that hurricane at Katrina. We had the hurricane or the storms, and those churches were not opening up. Osteen was not opening up his church. That was a problem. That's a problem, people. And so I want to put it out there that if you've got pastors that you have direct contact with who has the power and the authority to communicate and make a difference in the community, we don't need an Osteen situation. We need to start opening up these churches, especially for the elderly, and start providing provisions, maybe even cooking meals and getting meals on wheels controlled by our own people, because we know what we eat and what our people like to eat. T. West, what's your take on this?
Yeah, and fortunately, you know, in situations like this, you know, you often see the best in people come out, but sometimes, unfortunately, you also see the worst in some people come out. So I agree. We have to be as best as we can in a situation like this. Always stay safe now, but we have to be our best brother or sister's keepers, especially in crisis situations like this. And I hope that it brings out the best in people. But always be careful. Always be careful. There's always crazy people. All right. So always be careful. Be safe. Watch out. Be watchful.
Yeah, be watchful, be conscious, and be protective. I think I'm going to go back to what protagonist said, T, which is where we as the African American descendants of slavery community, we need to come together as community and start caring for people. Maybe you might have an elderly person in your community that you know that lives down the street. You might just go check on them. Hey, are you okay? Do you have enough supplies? You might want to go pick up some water or some food for those people. I think that kindness is a virtue right now, especially when we're talking about praying for people. I think faith without works is dead. That's what the scripture says. And so many of us have a lot of faith that things will be taken care of, but you ain't got no actions. You need to put your money where your mouth is. You need to put your body in motion. You say, I ain't got no money, Shirley. Well, you could do something. Go ask them, hey, do you need help? And they might say, here's $20. Can you go down to the store and get this for me, sister so-and-so? I think that we have to go back to the barter system where we're bartering and we're helping with one another. Fruit trees, we're going to know that they're going to be rationing fruit and produce. Now, how do we deal with that, family? I'm going to tell you how we deal with it. Find out the people in stores who have fruits and vegetables and things of that nature. Find out people in our community who have natural trees in their community and nuts. And we can start asking them, hey, do you mind if we share and kind of barter and exchange, and making sure some people, they have got avocado trees, apple trees, lemon trees. A lot of people just let those stuff just fly and fall on the ground. Well, guess what? That's money and gold right now. We need to be conscious of that.
Well, I do got to get ready to bounce, but I do hope that was a good tribute to the conversation, and I really enjoyed speaking with you guys.
Yes, you did put some very good nuggets out there. Thank you so much for coming on board, brother. It really means a lot. It
No
really
problem.
does.
You guys have a great night.
You too. Thank you so much for chiming in. We've got like 3 more minutes and I will end the show. I thank you guys so much for chiming in. T West, why don't you start by just telling us what's the ideas, what's the nuggets that you want to leave for tonight for our community as we slowly fade out of this great video that we've had. Thank you so much, Byron and the protagonists and MC 7007 Flagship. I'm going to let you two get to say something too before we chime out. But T West, I'm going to start off with you. What would you like to say to the family that we need to stay alert and see what happens for tomorrow and the rest of the days to come?
Well, this is the moment of truth in this country. This is a time when most people who are living right now, most people have never gone through anything like this. And it's really going to show what each of us are made of. It really is. And the highest priority is for each of you to stay safe and be safe. And also realize that you're not going to starve to death. You're not. So don't be hoarding, doing things like that. Don't do things like that. And a better day is coming, but we got to get through this. And we are going to lose a lot more people. That's going to happen. It's going to happen in this country just as we see it happening in other countries. So let's prepare for that, and let's put our best foot forward with this. So Shirley, thank you for the invite, and all the guests. Thank you also. It was good to hear all the input from all of you. So that said, Shirley, hey, have a great one.
Thank you, T, so much. Thank you so much. MC, what's your take on this whole thing? If you can still if your voice is coming through, what's your last words of input and insight on tonight's video? I think your volume is off, my brother. There you go.
Well, Shirley, it's me. I just want to say, hopefully, that the next show, if we could talk about the economic response about how Congress all of a sudden out the blue is giving, I think, $8 billion just specifically to the Asian community for their losses. And keep in mind, there was an executive order last year where there was $800 million given specifically to enhance Asian American businesses. Meanwhile, Black people are being told we can't talk about reparations. We need to start talking about values and things that don't freaking matter. So I'm locked, talked, and ready to rock to talk about that. I am off the Richter scale. And then this is all happening, as we discussed before. People are voting for Biden, and I don't even understand why. So this is that's one thing that I want to talk about for real. So just let me know when you're ready for that. I'm ready for war with that one.
Oh, we're gonna love talking about that. We got to talk about the money aspect, because if government's going to talk about taking care of people, we are still an overlooked group of people. But unless we commune and have these kind of conversations, to have a louder voice and be the true Black media that we are, we're going to fail ourselves. So we can't be silenced by celebrityism and athletes and
they don't matter. And Angela Rye and Roland Martin and all those other idiots out there.
Come on.
And now, one thing I also want to sit there and say is that keep in mind, this all happened in like a day or two. There was no study. There was no, let's have a conversation. This is another group of people who. Oh, and another thing is they want us to go cape for them and start shopping at their businesses again. Keep in mind, they don't shop at our business. They don't care about us.
No.
Let me tell you something. I do not. I literally have. I give no F's for them at all. None. But anyways.
You mentioned, I mean, I'm not going to the store. You know, in California, they got the nerves to say, if you come eat at our Chinese restaurant, we're going to take your temperature. They got temperature guns. Yes, in California. Before you go,
something.
You ain't gonna, no, don't shoot me with nothing. Don't worry. I don't want your wontons. I'm out of here.
Yeah, your chow mein ain't that bomb. Let's get it together. For real. And I mean, it ain't that good. I just literally have absolute disdain for this community that has just been completely diabolical towards us. I mean, literally, they took our Congress in the 60s gave them our hair care industry, instead of us getting loans to open up grocery stores and liquor stores in our neighborhoods, they gave it to them. It's like we're here to make everybody else rich, and then we're told, let's talk about values. Oh, if these black folks don't get the hell up out my damn face talking about we gonna vote for Biden, you're gonna see me on the news. Trust me.
Okay, because we need to understand that we're an authoritarianism kind of mindset with some of the immigrants that have come here and try to implement their culture and impose it within Black communities. And Black communities have forgotten that free labor and the building of this country started with us first. And I was, like I said earlier, we have capitalism, socialism, and liberal socialism. And right now, people understand the scales that we're looking at. Where normally we say in a capitalist administration, we talk about capitalism, but we're in a time where, because of the coronavirus, now government has to tip the scales more towards a socialist agenda, meaning that we need to deal with the social issues of the people: housing, schools, infection, certain areas of just distancing. These are social issues. Bars, markets, these are churches, social distancing that fall under the category of socialism and associating with one another. Thank God for President Trump, because we have the resources to balance those scales. So thank you so much. I appreciate you so much chiming in. And MC, I can't hear your mic, but I appreciate you as well. And I would say this to you guys: for every action is a reaction, for every non-action is the aftermath. Thank you guys for having the aftermath of being reactive and involved and engaged in our community, and sharing this video, getting the like buttons up, share. Let's have this conversation. Take this video and watch it again, dissect it, and have conversations within your family. It starts family first. Hashtag Black Family First. Hashtag BF1. BF1. If we can start taking care of the Black man and the Black woman and the American family, because USA has to focus on USA first. That is why I support this administration. I support President Trump. I stand in alignment with him when we have to talk about a nationalist country, which is America first, and all these other people who are here. You need to go home and you need to ask your government and your regime to fix your situation, because the priorities with us start with us first. So please make sure that you guys leave comments after this video. Don't just leave it during the duration, which I'm very grateful for, but I ask that you leave comments afterwards. Tell me, what would you like us to continue to talk about? Because in the coronavirus movement, the media says something different than how we may address these issues. But I'm asking for the church leaders, the Republican leaders, the Democrat leaders in the state of California to step up to the plate. Do not just sit here and be an antagonizer on social media against President Trump, but be an activist and an advocate for your community, because that is what your job is, and that's what you're stimulatingly say through the duration of your organizations. Now it's time for you to implement that. You need to implement and have the bigger position of leadership and saying, look, I'm going to do better and I want better, despite my difference with the administration of Trump or with Gavin Newsom. I want to do better within the community. And it starts with you at home, within your churches and your local clubs and organizations. So in saying that, I want to thank you guys so much. Please make sure you get the thumbs up. Richard, Carol, thank you so much. Caroline, thank you so much for moderating. Real Money, thank you so much for that donation. Sister Black is always on board. Lucky Sports is always on board. There's so many of you guys who always come in on a regular basis. And I thank you for your love and your ideas and your input, because it means a lot to me that I have people who regularly chime in and regularly support me. And the more you guys come in, the more we grow, the more we learn, the more we get our ideas out there, the more our people are more informed. Stay alert, stay woke, and keep your head up. God bless you and good night.